Ikuzo! Hello everybody, welcome. I am Tokkuri Yashi, your palm tree friend, and today is the first in our series of videos on the environment. Today I would like to talk to you about leaf litter, as it is autumn time here in the Northern Hemisphere, and when it is autumn time, a lot of deciduous trees, they decide, it's getting cold. I'm going to shed all my leaves so that they don't get damaged in icy weather. But as they do that, they fall into the gardens, they fall onto the floor, and they create what a lot of humans interpret as a mess. And it's human nature to want to clean up that mess and tidy up your garden. But before you do that, take one moment to watch this video, as I'm going to give you many reasons why you shouldn't do that. Now, leaf litter is home to many leaf litter dwelling arthropods. Now, these arthropods, invertebrates, are very good friends of ours, and they can help us in the garden and they can help us in nature. Now, it's all known very well that habitat loss is one of the biggest contributors to biodiversity loss in the world, and removing this leaf litter is the habitat of these invertebrates. So it only goes to show that this will reduce their habitat. The habitat loss will then mean that there is less of them about, the populations will decline. Now you may think just one garden is only small, but if this is done across a whole country scale, over a whole continent scale, then the habitat will really mount up, and there will be a lot more of these invertebrates which are there to help us out. Now, these invertebrates can help your garden in many different ways. They are good at decomposing the litter. They help with the nutrient recycling, both the nitrogen and the carbon cycles. They are good for pollination in the spring, and if the numbers of these invertebrates are diminished during the winter, there will be less there in the spring to come and help with pollination in the next year, and there will be less there for a food source next year for other mammals and birds, for example, will be eating these next year. So if there's less of them, there will be less food for other mammal species and bird species, which then may impact on their populations. And they can also help with pest control. There are a lot of species that naturally prey on what we would consider pests, such as aphids, for example. Now, species that you can find within leaf litter that are handy for the garden and very helpful are lacewing and ladybirds, which hibernate over the winter and become dormant to try and protect themselves from the cold. But you also have species in there which stay active over the winter, such as wood lice, which are very good at decomposing this material and putting it back into the soil, part of the nitrogen and nutrient cycling. This will create better soil for gardens and is a natural compost, which goes hand in hand with the earthworms too, which will live underneath in the soil, and they will drag this nutrients back down under the soil, as well as creating aeration and improving water infiltration in the soil. Now then, what can you do then to try and create this habitat and to promote these invertebrates in your gardens? Well, one thing you could do is creating a compost heap. Compost heaps are very good for hibernating insects because they provide all of these qualities that they are looking for. The decomposition will create warmth and heat, which will be nice for them, nice and snuggly for them over winter. And then, once you've let them live there over the winter, then there will be a nice compost for you to put on your garden in the spring, which is it's win-win for everybody else. Now, I have done some studying on this. This is not just me talking, who is this guy? How does he know all this? Well, I have done studies on this as part of a degree. And during my studies, I did take samples of leaf litter from various places and looked at what was inside them, what I could find, what insects, what were living there. Now, from what I have found, if you want to tidy up your garden, that's fine, that's great. I'm not saying don't tidy up your garden, because there is different places where this leaf litter will be more effective. If there's a thin, soggy layer of leaf litter on a path, for example, that's not going to be great for insects. If there's not a very deep pile on grass, that again, you can clean it off the grass, you can clear it off the paths, that's fine. That's not really going to help insects too well. But it's what you do with it afterwards. Instead of throwing it in a garden bin, getting it taken away, if you leave it, if you can find a corner in your garden. Now, the best place that I've found for insects is a deep-ish level of leaf litter, because they don't want it to be wet and soggy and compact. So if it's deep, the bottom there, it will stay dry. Also, over soil. If it's over brickwork, if it's over concrete, it's not great. It needs to be over soil so that they can get down into the soil a little bit. It can be all pulled down. And also, if it's sheltered slightly, maybe under a bush, by a wall or a fence, somewhere that keeps it sheltered. So, instead of throwing all of your leaf litter away, getting rid of it, if you can find a nice little corner of your garden where it's sheltered over soil, and you can put it there instead, that will create a lovely habitat for these invertebrates to live, which would be beneficial for everybody and would be good for nature. Yay! Well, that is basically everything that I wanted to talk about today. So I hope you enjoyed listening to my talk on leaf litter, understood a little bit more about why it's important, why we shouldn't really be throwing it away, why it is a good habitat for insects, and how these insects will help with nature, with biodiversity, and improve your garden. Then please like and subscribe. If you have any questions, then please put them in the comments, and I will see you again for another video on the nature sometime soon, hopefully. Well, thank you for watching, everybody. I am Tokkuri Yashi, your palm tree friend, and I will see you all again soon. Bye, everybody. Bye. Bye-bye.